Call Marty and Clay at 842-KERN or toll free at 1-800-640-KERN. Now more of Taking Care of Business on Kern Radio Newstalk 1180.
We are back on Taking Care of Business with Clay Kerner, and I'm Marty Pay. Our in-studio guest is 2nd District County Supervisor Zack Scrivner, and by phone, Executive Director of the Kern County Taxpayers Association, Michael Turnipseed. And Zack, you were going to comment on what Michael had just said?
Well, I was just going to comment on just generally with the you can see that this labor issue in a lot of respects has become a partisan issue where the Democrats have left the House. They're not there to vote on the contract issues that are being brought forth by the governor. But the other interesting thing to note is that you have other traditionally liberal, democratically backed groups like the Sierra Club, MoveOn.org, et cetera, that are all engaging in trying to organize these rallies around the country. And so, you have the environmentalists like the Sierra Club, MoveOn.org, which we know is a democratic backed group, and labor unions that are all coalescing to try and push this issue and try and gain support. And you'll see other times where the environmentalists and the unions have teamed up. We saw it with the refinery expansion here in Bakersfield, with the Green Mail, where they oppose a project based on environmental grounds, but really what it's about is that the project maybe isn't using union labor. And so these are just key Democratic constituencies, and they've all joined forces here.
It's crazy. All four of us were at that Lincoln Day dinner the other night, I should say. And Shannon Duffy, was that his name, the congressman from Wisconsin? Mm-hmm. Well, he talked about, I made some notes on this, he had talked about the last election in Wisconsin, how the government flipped. The assembly was Democratic, now it's Republican. The majority one short of the majority in the Senate flipped from Democrat to Republican. The governor's office flipped, and one of the senators flipped. So, it's almost as if the Democrats aren't used to the fact that they don't need to play fair anymore, or now they have to play because they don't own the ball game anymore. It's as if, Shannon Grove and Gene Fuller and Connie Conaway decided, well, we can't make a difference here as far as our vote, so we're going to go to Nevada for a couple weeks and not vote and see if we can stalemate the government. So it's as if they're not used to the fact that they're not in the majority.
Well, it appears to me, Marty, that Scott Walker, the governor of Wisconsin, is trying to force workers in his state to give up their rights. That's what Clay, Hilda Solis said.
Clay, that's the second one of those you've done. So you have to tell us what you're reading from. If not, Michael's going to hang up and go, "What the heck's wrong with Clay?"
Well, I'm reading from the blog, the Hill. It's not called The Hill. It's a blog out of Washington, and that was a comment from Hilda Solis I thought was pretty interesting.
That's actually a speech she gave this morning to the Democratic National Committee winter meeting.
Wow. Zack, you had some things to say about Governor Walker.
Well, I just wanted to point out what it is that the governor is actually asking for. So for the viewers, or I'm sorry, for your listeners who are seeing that these labor issues are going on but aren't really sure what it's about, I think it's important to point it out. What the governor is suggesting is that you'll have the state employees in his state pay 12% of their health care premiums, and that's up from the current 6% that they pay. The national average is over 20%. And at the county of Kern, our newly hired employees that are hired after 2007 and are non-safety employees, they currently pay 20%. At the city of Bakersfield, the employees pay 20%. And you have to have employees paying something towards their premium, because otherwise there really isn't I think an appreciation for how much healthcare costs. And then when costs do skyrocket, when these premiums go up 15% in a year, they are willing to be part of the solution to make adjustments to the healthcare plan to bring those premiums down. When you're paying nothing for your healthcare, you don't care how much it costs. I mean, I remember Bill Thomas, when he was congressman, I heard him say, people will consume as much healthcare as someone else will pay for, and I think it's true. Mm-hmm. The other thing he's asking is that the employees pay into their own retirements, pay towards their pension 5.8%. of their payroll. And at the county, what we're locked in right now are negotiations with our employees for the ones who don't currently pay anything into their own pension, which is 60%. Have never paid, and then a large portion of the remaining 40% paid for 5 years and then paid nothing. We're working towards asking those employees to pay something towards their portion, and their portion for non-safety is between 6 and 11% of payroll, depending on how old you were when you started with the county. And for the public safety, it's somewhere between 11% to 17% of payroll. So for the governor to be asking for 5.8% in a contribution towards their pensions and to pay 12% of their health care premiums it certainly isn't draconian. It's responsible. And what we're seeing, rather than labor coming to the table trying to stave off layoffs, which is the other option for the governor, or to drastically cut services, to a level that he can't, provide the things that taxpayers expect out of government. Rather than come to the table and negotiate, their answer is to go out, strike, bring in groups from out of town, other labor unions from across the country, and then you have other liberal groups, Sierra Club, MoveOn.org, that are trying to rally the troops.
We're having a conversation with Zack Scrivner and Michael Turnipseed on Kern Radio Newstalk 1180.
Zack, I don't think that those two issues that you brought up are really the major concern right now, because the unions have agreed to pay the 12% on the health care and to increase the pension by 5.8%. The big issue that I understand is collective bargaining.
Yeah, that's the issue that you're right. That's the issue that the unions are really concerned about, because what the governor would like to try and do is to limit collective bargaining rights just to pay, and basically in collective bargaining you have to meet with the employee labor union groups. The idea is to try and achieve some type of an agreement. But what the teachers union specifically that's in Wisconsin doesn't want to do is to give up all the other things that the union bargained for. And what that comes down to are things like merit-based pay versus tenure, giving parents choices on the schools that their kids are going to go to. When you look at having to do layoffs, do it based on merit, not on seniority. These are things that the unions have negotiated for that have much more to do with management than they do with the pay and the benefits that the employees take home. And if governors don't have the ability to manage their organizations, their states, then they're in a lot of trouble, particularly when you have tight budgets, because you don't have the flexibility to do things that you need to do. And that's the same type of situation that you'll see at cities and counties where labor unions, they want to try to take over so many of those components to management.
Michael, let me ask you a question. Let's define this a little bit, okay? We're talking a little bit about collective bargaining. So collective bargaining basically is when you have the ability to negotiate between management and a union. So in this situation, we're looking at a environment where the union donates money to a particular party. That particular party gets in office, and then the union negotiates with that party for its benefits. That be a fair assessment of the situation?
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Okay. So how can that be true collective bargaining?
Well, collective bargaining means basically, and it's government that gave and set up the whole rules for collective bargaining anyway. And as we know, nothing's poured in concrete forever. Laws change all the time. So if the government feels that they've gone too far, they can change the rules, and that's what they're doing in Wisconsin. But collective bargaining means it's the right for employees to get together and vote whether they want a collective bargaining, and when it passes, as they create a union, and they let the union negotiate for them. I mean, it's happened for a long time, but it really started out in the private sector, in the steel mills, the coal mines, where there really were some health and safety issues. This is before we had, all the rules we have now that protect workplace safety, and the government has actually replaced the need for unions in that area, because the government has stepped up at both the state and federal level with very, very strong worker safety laws. So that part is gone. So actually, the only thing that there is to negotiate is wages and benefits.
Zack?
Well, I would say that the labor union movement that we saw decades ago in the country, did a lot for workers, did a lot for worker safety, et cetera. But there's a big difference, in my view, between a collective bargaining process in the private sector, when you're talking about, coal mines, et cetera, versus in the public sector. Because in the private sector, if a workforce unionizes, and if they are asking for pay and benefits that exceed the company's ability to pay and still be viable, then they are still subject to market pressures. The companies simply aren't going to be able to stay in business. But in government, you have a totally different situation where not only do the employees have a monopoly, where you can't just go out and hire a new set of firefighters or sheriff deputies or teachers, for that matter, in the amount of time that you have to come in and replace people that you're not able to reach an agreement on pay and benefits. That's just fundamental, that that monopoly situation that's set up puts governments in a very difficult situation to be able to continue to do business when you're not able to achieve an agreement.
I think another comment that's very telling, that's different, is after our last election at the city, a union president made the comment and was quoted in the paper that we got our boys elected.
That says something for the collective bargaining process.
So it's not truly negotiating fairly in the interest if the unions are publicly claiming that they've elected two people that are going to give them what they want because they owe them paybacks because the unions walked for them or gave them contributions.
That was Zack and who else?
Pardon me?
That was Zack and who else?
Yeah. Just like Zack. They walked for him door to door.
Yeah,
exactly. On the other side.
Yeah.
But, the fact is that the not even audacity, the arrogance of the union to brag that they got their guys elected, that you'd think they'd want to keep that somewhat quiet and not broadcast it over the whole world. Because now when they start getting contracts favorable to them more than they probably should have been, you can look back to, where are the clean hands here of the elected officials? The elected officials' job are to represent the interests of the taxpayers, not the unions. And in many cases, you see it a lot at schools, where many school board members are teachers who teach in other districts but live in another district, and they run and get on the school board in the district where they reside. Mm-hmm. And they help pass the CTA teacher union agenda.
Mm-hmm. Let's pick it up there when we get back. This is Taking Care of Business on Kern Radio Newstalk 1180.